I'm your host, Jody Cohen, and I'm so excited to be joined by my friend, Dr. Deanna Minich, a health educator, researcher, author with more than 20 years of experience in nutrition, mind-body health, medical science, and functional medicine. Her passion is bringing forth a colorful self-approach or whole self-approach to nourishment and bridging the gaps between science, soul, and art medicine. And so I'm really excited to, first of all, welcome.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for having me. What a delight. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, so Deanna and I were talking about color and the vibration of color and how you can actually use color to help in a lot of areas of your life. So if you want to just dive into kind of color and how you use it for healing.
Yeah. Well, part of my personal journey involved, I was about 28 years old. I was going through a number of emotional and physical issues, and something within me really unlocked. And I remember it was a Saturday. I went up to the art store and I bought a bunch of paints. And this is back in the time when I was a student, so I didn't have a lot of money. I brought the paints and this big roll of paper back to my room within this student house. And I remember just painting and really feeling like I was losing myself in those colors. And it was almost like the more I was painting those colors, the more I started to realize the colors that were all around me, whether they were on my plate, in my room. I started to surround myself with all of these colors. I would put up my paintings. And so that, I think, was the maybe that wasn't the unlocking. I even think back to when I was 13. I had one of those. You probably did too, Jody. I had one of those rainbow shirts.
Oh, of course,
Long, of
in the
course, who
70s and
didn't
the
growing up in
80s,
the
right?
70s and 80s, right? I mean,
My
and I
rainbow
was wearing
gauchos.
it. In fact, I've been trying to find it back. But I would wear that when I was 13, and I would want my parents to call me Star Rainbow. They refused. So there was something about rainbow with me. And then I kind of let it go. And then again, it came up when I was like 28, 29. I kind of had this painting episode. And then I met who was soon to be my husband. And he made an observation, which was really interesting, which was he noticed that the paintings that I would make, that they reflected some things that I was going through within my body. So I had a lot of reproductive health issues. I had endometriosis. I had a condition called a follicular hydrosalpinx. So my fallopian tube was blocked. So it was a hydrosalpinx on the left side, which is my feminine side. And so he said, Deanna, don't you think you're painting your ovaries and your uterus? And I kept painting with orange and pink and gold. These are the colors I would never wear. I couldn't stand pink. But yet, every time I went to go paint, pink was the color I couldn't help myself from painting with. So I think it's been part of, so what happened with me in that whole trajectory? Well, painting was one of the things that got me into the zone of, I would say, the parasympathetic. You know, I found myself in this zone of non-perfection, really being one with myself. And once my husband had observed something about it, there's something about the witnessing of what you create and having other people find some element of your story in it. So I think from that point on, I was tuned into color, and I was already a scientist studying yoga, and I knew about the chakra system. I knew that there were these color associations with the neuroendocrine system. So then I started to piece it all together. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'm painting my sacral chakra, which is all about the reproductive aspect. So that's my intro into color. And so now I use it as a vehicle for healing into all of the teaching that I do. It doesn't matter if it's a medical presentation to doctors or it's a consumer presentation. I'm always bringing in color because I feel like that's what's turning on our creative brain. And our creative brain is what helps us to be receptive, remember, and create a sense of story.
You know, it's funny. I struggle with meditation, and one of my good friends and I went to uh, kind of a spa, and she was getting a treatment, and I was waiting for her for dinner, and I was sitting kind of in the bar with some other people, and they were all coloring. So I started coloring, and by the time she came, like, I was so in love with it. And she said, you know, that's a really good channel for people who have a hard time getting into the meditative state.
You know, those adult coloring books, like you were mentioning, with, you know, just taking metallic markers, there is something really meditative about it. I remember somebody saying to me that they were painting or coloring while they were listening to one of my webinars. And I thought, Wow, what a great way to integrate the information that they were listening to, which was mostly heady and intellectual. And then here she was coloring in her coloring book. It's like, that's the best of both worlds. So that makes sense that
Well,
it
and
would just,
even in processing grief, that's been something that's been very helpful. And a lot of friends who've lost a parent said that's what they did as well. So it's just accessing color. If we can't wear it, being able to just draw with it's amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. And observing it in our environment too. You know, one of the houses that I lived in when I was single, it was a small house, but I was very intentional about the colors I wanted in every room. I wanted a different element. So my kitchen, I painted yellow. My dining room was orange. My living room was evergreen, kind of a pine green color. My bedroom was purple. My bathroom was this aquamarine color. So every room had a feeling that I would have when I would be in there that would be emphasized by the color. And so, you know, color made me feel a certain way. You know, when I was in the kitchen, it made me feel warmer. And there's the fire element with my stovetop. So I've used it very deliberately. I mean, even when I go for speaking, different talks, I mean, even today I was like, what's my feeling? And my feeling today was like, oh, I want to be about nature.
It's
So I'm wearing
beautiful.
a blouse with lots of color, more natural tones, more than the vivid colors that I'm usually painting on canvases.
Yeah, and this is amazing. We were kind of talking about empowering people and how, you may not be able to control going to places you normally go or connecting with people you normally connect with, but you can always choose what color you wear. And I would love it if you could share some of your art and kind of walk us through the colors and how that connects to the chakras.
Absolutely. You know, before we went on, I was telling you that you know, I usually feel like painting in the summer. And so this past weekend was like a painting extravaganza. And so I went to go collect my paintings. So let's start with red. And by the way, even though I'll say certain things about the colors, it's a personalized experience. Not everybody has the same feeling about the color, even though you go to color psychology, color theory, and they will say certain things. I defy all of that. I really do think that it's important to go with your own feeling about red, because how you are seeing this red will be different than how I'm seeing it and feeling it. And I really had this sense of repulsion with red. In fact, I even did a podcast on creating a date with the color red, because I felt like red was too in my face. You know, you think of a stop sign, red. You think of the stoplight, red. An ambulance, a fire truck. It necessitates some kind of alert. It's the sympathetic, you know? So it's like, but then you have Valentine's Day, you have the heart, and you have blood, you have family and ancestry. So I had this 2-hour painting date with red, and not from this one, but from another episode. And what I came to was that red serves a purpose. You know, there's something really beautiful about family, connection, blood. And we need to stop. Sometimes we need that reaction. We need the adrenals to help us to alert to our survival. And so I came out of that experience very different. In fact, this is my favorite out of all of the paintings I did. I'm much more drawn to red now than I've ever been.
Yeah, I remember I had the same averse reaction. I think that, as you heal and you kind of find the onion, different things like what you might have been averse to suddenly feels more appealing. Like you grow and you evolve and you change.
It's true. And each of these colors, you know, we think of food as medicine. I say that color is medicine. So red is a teacher, just like you said, when we grow and change, what is red teaching us? How is it bringing medicine? You know, each of these colors just, you know, they have, even in color therapy, you wear red sunglasses, or not sunglasses, but like red tinted glasses in
Yep.
order to see in red, right? And I have a sauna where I can change the color inside. And so, you know, it's like being bathed in that color. How do your cells receive it? And so red connects to inflammation. Inflammation serves a purpose. So how about for you? So you mentioned that you kind of had a similar feeling with red.
I find red to be, I connect it to the root chakra and to grounding. And I feel like part of the transition we're going through right now, the more we can stay centered and grounded and connected,
Yes.
the easier it is to navigate. So as opposed to avoiding, it's kind of like the things that you have to do. You get in the car and you put your seatbelt on. Like just, I have chosen to see it as like a kind of a daily ritual of just really focusing on red and connecting.
I love that. Yeah, it is grounding. And in fact, what I haven't mentioned is that there's a spectrum for every color. So even though I'm showing this red, which is kind of
Yes.
pink, you know, there's burgundy, there's kind of like the earthier red that you mentioned, all the way to like a bright, you know, just like a cherry red or even a candy red, right? And so there are different shades of red we might be more comfortable with. But yeah, you're mentioning the earthy grounding root chakra aspects. So what about orange? Orange is the color that I did not want to paint or get anywhere close to. Again, sacral chakra, it's about sensuality, sexuality, it's about emotions, it's about the playfulness. It's kind of a messy, childlike aspect to who we are. It's very warm. And not a lot of us are very open about talking about our sexual selves, our creative selves. And so the sacral chakra is all about the power of two ovaries, two testes, relationship, duos, dances. And do we feel comfortable with those partnerships? What does our comfort level with those partnerships say about our ability to be in relationship with ourselves? So orange, for a long time, I did not wear orange. I now have my wardrobe aligned into the rainbow, and I can see where I'm deficient now.
Oh, interesting.
Like I'm still a little bit deficient in orange, but I think because I have reddish hair, you know, it's like too much orange. I can get it in other places. You don't always have to just wear it. You can be looking at it too. Bring
Or
it into your
consuming
life.
it as food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So orange colored foods rich in beta carotene, which also align to things like progesterone and hormones in the body. So there is a, not just a psychological connection, but a physiological one as well. So that's orange, playful, still working on that one. Now, the one that most of us, there was a study in Manchester, England some years ago, and they asked people who were not anxious or depressed, but just of a kind of a, they called it a normal mood, but essentially it was a non-anxious and non-depressed person. And they asked them, what color do you like the most? And they gave them a color wheel. And most people like the color yellow. It was color number 14. It was the sunny kind of yellow, like on a summer day, right? It's the, even though we might associate it with a yield sign, it's the sun, and we're run by the sun. We're attracted to the light just naturally. So this is the solar plexus chakra, which is the energy of 3. It goes upward like an arrow. It's directed, it's pointed, it's masculine. It gets us to do things in the world. It gets us to achieve, to aspire, and to focus. And so this is one that, you know, I have a questionnaire for people to fill out in my book and on my website. And when I look at the results of all the inputs, what I see is that most people have an imbalance in this chakra.
And that's where most digestive dysfunction occurs too.
Exactly. And think of the yellow within us, right? With the location of this, the yellow bile, the yellow
Yeah.
bilious liver, this, the rotting, the ripening, the acid, the juices. But you know what? That's all really good because it catalyzes transformation. So some of us are taken in too much where we don't have time to catalyze. So this is the energy of fire. This is, we can be inspired or we can be burnt out. What do you think of yellow?
I agree with you. I actually, during one of the darkest periods of my life, I decided to paint my entire house yellow, a really bright, happy yellow. Yeah, before I got married when I was in grad school and everything fell apart. But yeah, it's amazing. But I also agree with you. I don't tend to wear yellow. I think of it as really happy, but I'm feeling like, you know, we're all energetic beings, and there's this idea that if we can, you know, my towels are yellow, you know, like just kind of bringing yellow into my life more, that can balance some of that energy in the digestive area.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We can use it strategically. Like just the other day, I don't know what it was, but I felt like I couldn't get enough yellow. So I made a meal with cauliflower rice, which I made yellow through turmeric and mustard powder. And then I
Yum.
put in garbanzo beans. I put in yellow onion. Everything was yellow. In fact, I put a picture of it on Facebook and somebody said, it looks like you need some green with that. And I said, no, I just need the yellow. Yellow, I need it. I need a little bit more fire. We can use these colors to fire us up, and yellow is a really good fiery color. So if you're feeling uninspired, bring in some soft yellow, you know, figure out which tone of yellow really resonates for you. And even on my desk, my work space, I have a yellow candle that I light sometimes when I need inspiration. I also have sage. I have a number of different things, but I bring in the fire element when I'm feeling like I need a spark.
No, that's great. And even like with all the wildflowers that are in bloom,
Yes.
I love the yellows. Yeah, it's funny. We're kind of known to recognize like our cravings for food, but we don't think about our cravings for color.
Mm-hmm. And I often will post my paintings on Facebook or social media, and I'll ask people which color or which painting do you like the most? And based on their response, I can tell exactly what they need. So I recently posted these, and many people like this one, which was interesting to me, right? Green.
Yeah.
And when I think of green, so when you said that red is an earthy color for you, it grounds you. For some people, it's actually it's this way. For some people, it's green. And they associate it with nature, with being outside, with leaves, with plants. I mean, there's no deficit of green on this planet. We were supposed to get green as an infusion. There's no shortage of green foods. So green is the heart
Yes.
chakra. It's all about expansion, just like a leaf on a tree expands to capture the light. And so it's the energy of four, you know, so oftentimes it's seen as very Christ-like, you know, the crucifix, kind of the two parts below, the two parts above, as above, so below. So it's the divining rod between our body and our spirit. And so in traditional Chinese medicine, they consider this to be the seat of consciousness. It's not the brain, it's actually the precognitive area of the heart. So green is, if you ask me what is my favorite color, ever since I was 7, I liked emerald green. So not necessarily all these shades, but I like a very specific emerald, and I just eat it up. Like I don't know. I feel like when I want to be nourished, like yesterday, I had to go to the dentist, and I wore green. I wore my emerald green because I was like, you need to come with me to the dentist. You know, color as guardians, as guides, as healers, as medicine. And even the woman at the dentist office said, oh, that green looks good on you. You know, it's like we were resonating. I was resonating with that
Yes. I
green.
do that with blue, although I love green as well.
Yeah, you are definitely that indigo goddess for sure. Every time I would see you, and I'm like, that's Jody's color.
I just love it. And it's funny, like I named my company that, and I
I
really
know.
do feel like the oils that have a blue hue are really beneficial in the brain.
Yes. Well, and that's been born. So I'll show you the two blue that I did. So we
Oh
have
my
the throat
gosh.
chakra. The throat chakra is the energy of 5, right? And so it's like a star. And so it's like, what do we bring up and out? And so it's alchemical. It's you know, this is a huge portal of so many of our passions coming from the heart and from the brain. It's kind of this meeting ground. And then the indigo, which is your color for sure, you know, the third eye chakra. When my husband saw this one, he's like, oh, that's a little bit. And I'm like, no, but it's, you know, it's being all knowing, all seeing, being connected to your sense of awareness, your dream state. It's seeing the things that are unseen is what you're tapped into, which is that level of intuition, right? In the dream state. So the throat chakra and the third eye, I mean, these two places are really, well, these are all powerful centers, but thyroid, pituitary gland, and how these things are like all signaling to each other. It's all one big web.
It is. It is. And also how we kind of communicate that with each other. Like the more, there's all this uncertainty and fear and kind of division. And the more we can get into our heart and use our voice clearly and connect, then we can actually help each other and lift everyone up.
It's true. And especially now during, you and I were talking a little bit about this before we got on, but people are expressing their truths, right? It's like everybody kind of has a different truth, and there are personal truths, then there are universal truths, but all of us have a truth to express. So one of the things I try to keep in mind is to always bring the heart up with the truth so
Oh, I
that,
love that.
yeah, just as a way of allowing our truth to be heard in compassionate ways. The crown chakra is,
That's beautiful.
it's lavender white. Sometimes it's referred to as gold or silver. I see it as like this lavender white. It's It's the all connecting rays of light. I liken it to a sun because it's connected to the pineal gland. So it's kind of like white light. How do we bring in more of light? We're hearing so much about the circadian rhythm and how important that is. It's not so much the what, it's now the when is what we're learning. And, you know, how do we integrate all of that? How do we find connection and purpose and meaning, and how that's even more important now. The untangibles, the things that are not as visible and as physical are even more essential now because we don't have so much access to the physical. So that's where the crown chakra really comes in. But really all of these pieces of us, all of this, I did make one last one, which was an integration of them all.
Oh, I love that. That's a pretty important step. That's amazing.
Well,
Wow.
what I did was I took, after I painted each of these, I took each of the colors and then just kind of I just, in a meditative state, much like you with the coloring book, I just kind of went with the shape of it, right? And that's really what colors are about. I mean, they have so much to offer. And I'm not even going through black, brown, tan, beige, navy blue. Usually when I'm in an audience and I ask people about what colors they're wearing, it's usually those colors. It's muted colors, it's bland, it's colorless, you know, whether it's
Well, and
black or
if you
white.
think of it, the muted foods aren't as healthy as the colorful foods.
Yeah, many times, although I get some people tongue in cheek saying, oh, the rainbow diet, like Skittles and M&Ms, you know,
Okay.
you know, there's a spectrum. And I always think that we have to look to the spectrum, the spectrum of health promoting color, the spectrum. I mean, because color is so powerful, food manufacturers have used it as a tool to attract people to products too, just like clothing, you know, certain colors of clothing, certain colors of cars. Like I had to be really deliberate, like what color of car am I set for like the next 4 to 5 years? Because I usually keep my car about that time. And I was like, it has to be a white car. I'm in the crown chakra time. Like I was very intentional. It's like white. I'm going with a white car for right now. This is just where I'm vibing. Before that, I had a black car. Before that, I had an aquamarine car. So it
Oh,
was like,
pretty. Yeah,
yeah.
I have a blue car.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I know I'm on brand. But I'm curious, like your advice to people, just how they can use color to activate their parasympathetic state, and what strategies you might recommend.
Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, ask yourself, much like you would a food that you need, a nutritional requirement, kind of connect into the colors that you feel every day. And that could just start by getting dressed in the morning. Like, what do I feel like I need today? And I would also say the color that you feel least drawn to may actually be really good medicine as well. Just like orange was with me. I was repulsed by wearing orange, but orange needed to show up in other areas of my life. So I would ask yourself that question. What color am I attracted to? Right? That's probably your constitutional color. That's the one that you're already vibing to. And so it feels comfortable. It's like a friend. And that's good. That can feel very comforting. The growing color is the one that you feel more polarized to. So it kind of depends on your state and what you feel comfortable with. Are you looking for comfort and support, kind of the yin aspects, or are you looking for yang, growth, kind of pushing the envelope a little bit? Are you looking for medicine? Are you looking for deeper healing? This is where I think looking at that other color. So it can start with what you're wearing. It can start with what you're eating. It can start by, I have a friend who just painted the color of her son's room this past weekend, the color that you're wearing. Maybe it's like surrounding yourself in that color, right? And wearing that, looking at it. You can use cards. You know, oftentimes I have a card deck that I created. And so picking a card with a color, there are all kinds of decks on the market though. There's even one with just like Pantone. I bought, they have a deck. They're actually postcards, but it's all the different colors. And Pantone is the company that sets the color palette. So like for mixing and paints. And so you can pick, you know, you just pick one and then you reflect on that color and then maybe journaling on that color. And you know, what's interesting in this whole process talking about color is that even people who are blind And I'm not so sure about people who are colorblind, because some men tend to be red, green colorblind, but people who are blind, I've read reports that they can feel color. So even though they may not have ever seen it, they can sense something about the color. So you may want to experiment with that rather than just use your eyes, touching, feeling different colors of different foods. How does a red apple feel different than a Granny Smith green apple? You know, I think it's endless. It's really, I mean, I would say just to use your creativity here with colors, maybe just eating the rainbow, bringing more color into your environment, just even doing a color inventory, like what colors are around me all day. I'm amazed at how many people surround themselves with like no color or like really dark colors. And I think it's, you know, each of those are okay. And I think, what about something in between?
Yes.
Yeah, just bring it, just see how you feel with it. Or even a colored light bulb. You can get the glasses that are tinted, or you can also just go to the hardware store and buy a red bulb, a yellow, an orange bulb. All of these bulbs exist. And then just surround yourself in that light and see how you feel.
You know, my teen daughter has these little things that you kind of tape up around the periphery of your room, and you can change the color, and it feels like you're in a disco. It like makes it that color, and it's really profound. I mean, it's kind of like sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, just going outside and seeing the green makes me feel better. But it would be fascinating to see what people, you know, if they just change the color of their shirt or change, you know, pick a different food that day.
Definitely, definitely. You know, there was even a study, you know, just thinking about the parasympathetic nervous system. So one of the things that your viewers would be probably already knowledgeable about is heart rate variability, which is a measure of your autonomic nervous system, right? Like how does your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems, how are they balanced? And
Yes.
there was one study, and I cited this in one of my books, Whole Detox, in which green light, just like you were saying, this is what made me think of it. People that were in green light had better heart rate variability. So there's something about green. And then when I look in the studies at nature, how, in fact, there was just a study I just posted on Facebook, women, postmenopausal women being in a forest compared with being in a city had increased levels of serotonin, and they were statistically significantly different. And we know that serotonin is the neurotransmitter, the compound that is associated with happiness, contentment. And so these women, just by being surrounded in green, had that connection with better serotonin levels.
That's amazing. That gives people a lot of tools, you know. You're still allowed to go to Home Depot. You can buy a green light bulb. You can try wearing a green outfit. You can eat an all green, you know, lunch and see how that makes you feel.
Yeah. And, you know, that's even why I like sometimes wearing makeup. I mean, I feel like, oh, this is artistry. Like, what colors do I want to bring into my palette? Like,
Yeah.
you know, we can dress ourselves up in a whole, even the color of your socks. My husband, who is an acupuncturist and has a clinic, the way that he expresses himself, because he has to wear like a lab jacket kind of a thing, is he wears colorful socks. And he has a no shoe office. And so everybody sees the socks. And so colorful, bright, you know, different images. So there are all different kinds of ways that we can comfortably express ourselves through color.
Well, and even like you, my closet is arranged by color, and I sleep in t-shirts, and they're arranged by color too. And every night I kind of do a check-in. What color do I need tonight while I sleep to balance me out?
I love that. And you know, what you mentioned about sleep is really relevant, because that's really where we need to be in the parasympathetic, right? We need to be in a relaxed state. I still have Christmas lights, like these beautiful, like pastel-y kind of holiday lights around my bathroom mirror. And it's like I haven't taken them down from December. And so I just love them because I like the hue. And if I'm taking a bath, I just like to have that soft hue of these lights. I remember being a kid and just laying under the Christmas tree looking at the lights and like getting lost in each of those colors. And I think in part, you know, there's something soothing in that. You know, colors can bring in warmth, they can bring in memories. And so, yeah, I think finding our own way with color in a whole variety of different menu offerings, whatever that is for us.
Yeah, and I think this gives them a really nice option of things that they can do, from dipping into their closet, dipping into a box of crayons, getting creative with their meal planning. This is fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I mean, what a delight to be able to talk about color. I feel like, as a scientist, many people look to me for things that are very credible and validated and scientific, and all of that is really important. And it's also important to go with our own personal experience and intuition. And, what I experience with color being an important vehicle for healing for me, I don't discount that just because there aren't double-blind, placebo-controlled studies on colors. I still think that they're very relevant, right? And so it's bringing in the science and the spirituality, bringing a little bit more of the art into healing. We used to have the healing arts, and then it became private practice. So something shifted, and I do think we need to get more balanced, and that's what being in the parasympathetic is about. Many of us are sympathetically overdriven. So it's like, how do we bring back a little bit of that art, a little bit of that creative expression? And for some of us, I'm talking about color, things that are visual. For some people, it might be music. Some people see music and musical notes as colors.
Yes, yes. This was amazing. And how can people learn more about you or follow you on Facebook so they can see everything fun that you post?
Sure. My website is deannaminich.com, and everything is on there. The Facebook connection, Instagram, all of it. And again, you'll see a mix of science, different studies, as well as creative expressions. So just note that as you go into those spheres.
Thank you. This was fabulous.
Aw, thank you, Jody.
Thank you.